Welcome. Um, I would like to start with each professor introducing themselves. So we'll go around, and if each of you can introduce, who you are, which university you're a part of, what courses you teach, if you do research, what is your research on, and a short introduction to your connection to the Great Basin Observatory. And Rich, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. Really happy to be here. So I'm a professor at the University of Nevada, Reno. I got involved with the Great Basin Observatory through our university as a partner, and we use it in our classes. So getting teach using the telescope to teach students how to basically observe the sky. And also we do research with it, especially through our students. Um, and Yeah, and so the research that I do with the GBO and also with other telescopes across the country and world is related to black holes. So I'm studying what happens when stuff falls into a black hole. It emits lots of light and up that we can see with the Great Basin Observatory, but also a lot of X-ray telescopes, radio telescopes, and we kind of combine all the different type of light together to understand what's happening in regions very, very close to black holes.
Cameron, do you want to go next?
Yeah, you bet. So my name is Cameron Pace. I'm at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. So I think geographically of the university partners, I'm probably the closest. I got involved with the GBO in the early days, back in 2016 when it first got going. I teach, because we're a smaller school here at SUU, I teach all the smattering of physics, astronomy. That's definitely my favorite class to teach is introductory astronomy, and then our upper level astronomy courses as well, just because it's just a lot of fun. I think everyone wanted to be an astronaut for at least 5 minutes of their life, and I get to, capitalize on that just a little bit. Um, the research I do with the Great Basin Observatory is relating to looking at double stars and how they orbit each other, and to see if they are in fact actually next to each other, or if that's just a line of sight thing. And the fun part of that for my students is they get to compare observations we take now to observations that were taken up to 100, 200 years ago. And they really love to see their connection to science over time as we do that.
Thank you, and Kelly.
Yeah, I'm Kelly O'Neill. No relation to Aviva. We just happen to have the same great name. Um, but I am also a professor at University of Nevada, Reno with Rich, and I have been here just about 3 years now. So I think of the folks here, I'm the newest to join the GBO team, and it's been really fun getting to join a university that is partnered with Great Basin Observatory because it's been a fun teaching tool. So I teach uh, a range of our different astronomy courses from the intro level, the large, couple hundred student introductory level classes where you get people with a range of interests who are just taking an elective and interested in learning about astronomy to our upper division courses that mostly folks who are pursuing our astronomy minor or just want to learn, dive deeper into astronomy. So you get the whole range, and it's been fun to use GBO in those courses, as I think we'll talk about a little bit more later. My research background is in looking at the orbits of stars at the center of the galaxy as they orbit around the supermassive black hole. And that has led me to just a general interest in orbits, which is fun because that's something that we can continue to do with students through student projects, not at the galactic center, but any orbit, right? Planets, binary stars like Cameron mentioned, and stuff like that is fun to get students introduced to with through student projects.
Well, great. Thanks so much, you guys. So, Rich, I feel like I threw you off because I think we were supposed to start with Cameron on that last question. Sorry about that. Um, So first, we're going to just start by talking about student impact. I'd like for each of you to share how having this access to the Great Basin Observatory through this partnership has impacted your students. If you can give some examples, that would be great. And I'm curious if it's opened any new opportunities for students. And who would like to go first?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, so it's been a great, amazing tool for us to bring to our students. So I started at UNR, University of Reno, in 2019, and actually my very first class I taught was our observing class. And because we had the GBO, we designed the class entirely around using the GBO. So we have students, maybe Kelly will speak more about this later because she's taught the class as well. But we have students kind of design a project, write like a mock proposal, do a poster at the end of their presentation after taking real data with the GBO. And so there's something that, because it's our telescope in Nevada, there's something about it that kind of motivates them to be using something very local, as opposed to, downloading data from some database from some other telescope, which is also fun, but I see a special connection that students really kind of enjoy taking ownership over it and kind of letting them do stuff outside of a textbook and really, start figuring out their own path. And so that's been really fun for them to do. I think the connection to the park is also an amazing thing because a lot of them have been to that park, or, it's something that's special to Nevada, but also that telescoping in the park is also very special because, as far as I know, that's the only research grade telescope in the park, right? Yeah, Beavis nodding yes. So that's been really fun. And then I've seen, some students that might be their only time they touch a telescope or do anything is they get that experience. Other ones, it's a jumping off point. And so one of my favorite, I guess, personal experience stories of the student is a student who took that class. She then went on to do, every student at UNR graduates with a physics major or an astronomy minor, which is where I come in, does a thesis. So they do a little research project and they write up, 20-page paper. So she wound up, Alexis, this student who took the observing class, then did a senior thesis with me. She wound up doing a senior thesis based off of GBO, where she waited for a nova to go off. So like kind of a white dwarf, what our sun will turn into in 5 billion years. A bunch of extra material fell onto it. It got really bright for a few weeks. She tracked this with the GBO, saw it fade over time, and wrote up a paper on that. And then she decided to come and stay and do a master's thesis as a graduate student. And she wrote some software that basically does an automatic reduction of telescope data from the GBO. And from that, it kind of led her to do a PhD at University of Texas, Dallas, part-time while she was working full-time as a software engineer for a satellite company. Right. And so, she was going to find her path no matter what. She was an amazing student, but she's really interested in astronomy and kind of these little baby steps that kind of led up to her eventually getting this career in space that she's extremely interested in. I think that was an important thing that helped her, kind of find her way and kind of gradually be able to get there. And so there's a few stories like that, and I'm sure Cameron and Kelly have similar types of experience with students, but it's just something local that kind of lets students figure out their way, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, let me share about a couple of students as well that are very much kind of a similar vein. And I'm going to share, maybe, here we go. It'll take me just a second. There it is. Hopefully, give it a second to come through. Yeah. So here we have, I'm not going to read this to you all because that's just painful, but here's just some quotes from Dallas that I wanted to bring up. So Dallas is a student that grew up in Eastern Utah. He's a coal mining family. His granddaddy Anselmo came from Italy to come mine coal in Utah, and his dad's a coal miner. And then he told his son, this coal mining things, it's not going to last. You need to go off to college. And so he came to SUU, was a fantastic student. He did some research with us, published a short paper, just a couple page thing. But what he gained from this experience was writing experience. We taught him how to get some data, analyze it, and then write up a paper that is understandable to other people. It turns out that was really, really helpful for him, not in his career in space, unlike Richard's student. So Dallas, he's a public defender down in Vegas, and which is, nothing to do with astronomy there for sure, I would imagine. And but what he does say here, and I'll let you read those quotes. He basically says that um, researching something that's peer reviewed and the research writing component, that was a big way that he was prepared for law school, is through this little project of we have to have facts, observations that are backed up, and we have to have references to the literature. That's all part of what you do as a lawyer. And so he's really grateful for that experience there. Let me tell you about, well, maybe here, we'll come back to her. John, so John, also, as you can see here, nothing to do with astronomy. John is a geologist. He is a professional fossil preparer. In other words, people mail him broken fossils or fossils that are kind of buried in a rock, and then he digs them out very carefully, very patiently with those dental tools. So he has far more patience than I ever will. But what really prepared him was he got into the geology world. He did a internship in Grand Staircase. Let me jump down here. Here it is. So he did an internship with the Grand Staircase. And while he was there, he discovered a jawbone just kind of in the ground there on his last day. But the reason that he got that internship was because he had done research with the Great Basin Telescope. So he did this as a high schooler. So lots and lots of high schoolers want to do an internship digging up dinosaur bones in the Grand Staircase Escalante. I mean, that's very, very competitive. And the paleontologist down there, they told him, look, the reason that we picked you out of that pile was that you had already published a paper. You're already familiar with the setbacks of science, the whole process of science. You had the grit to see a project through to its end. And so that set him up for success. Again, he's looking at the ground, not at the sky, but it still helped him out quite a bit. So those are the two I'll share for now.
Cool. Yeah. And I can just pick out a few general themes that it sounded like Cameron and Rich both touched on. I think one of the things that's been really cool to see in terms of student impact is the skills they walk away with, regardless of what they are going to do, right? There are some who do want to pursue astronomy and were either inspired to do that because of their work with GBO, or maybe they knew even before that they wanted to do that, and it gives them a skill set to go and pursue that. But also, as Cameron showed, right, some students in all walks of lives, all professions, right, the skills that you learn from actually getting to do hands-on science are transferable skills, whether that's the communication, the writing, the dealing with setbacks, the understanding that the weather affects, understanding the frustration of getting clouded out or whatever. I think all are valuable skills. One other recent opportunity for students that was really cool to see was we had a student symposium held at the Great Basin Observatory this past summer, so a couple months ago now, and that was an opportunity for students to go out to the park and really get to connect not only their astronomy knowledge and get to see and learn about more of the observatory, but also connect with the national park. And for a lot of students, it was their first time ever camping or first time ever seeing the Milky Way. And so that opportunity for students was also seemed like really impactful, and was happy to be able to help provide that for the students.
So I'm curious also how unique is it for undergraduate students to have an opportunity to do research with a telescope, a research grade telescope, in your opinions?
Well, I think Cameron can speak to the even more rare thing of getting middle schoolers to do it. Um, I think that's truly special what he's been doing.
Yeah, for sure. It really is. They're a fun group that they're mastering, a one-page paper, let alone something bigger. And it has been really special. But what really makes a difference there is they've had some great teachers because I can only meet with them. You can only do so much over Zoom, right? I meet with these students um, once a week, and I say, okay, here, oh, you guys have gotten this far, great. Here's the next step. Now go do it. And then their teacher miraculously gets them to do it. For example, one of the starting points is what do we want to observe? What target do we select? And I kind of give them some criteria. It's kind of the Goldilocks thing, not too bright, not too faint. We want it in this part of the sky so you can observe it. And typically, when I do this with my college students, I give them these criteria and they come back with a list of targets that are either they ignored part of my criteria. It's too bright, it's too faint, or it's in the southern hemisphere. We can't see it. Little things like that. And lately, I've been so impressed with my middle schoolers that this last go around, every one of their targets was 100%. We could pick it. I just couldn't believe it. So kudos to Mrs. Murphy in Ely. She's just awesome. Um, but at the same time, it can be really um, a game changer for those kids. I grew up in rural Utah, so my hometown had like 350 people um, and a theater for like 300. So, you could get just about everyone in to watch a movie at the same time. And so I really felt what it was like when you have a small school, limited resources. And so I felt that it's important to try to involve rural students. And I also felt what it's like to have, limited number of uh, career options ahead of you. I remember in high school, you could take building construction where you learn how to pound nails, or you could take auto mechanics and we're kind of done. Oh, and welding. Those were extracurriculars. And we were done here. And that's sort of what some of those students out there feel. So it's just been great to see their little eyes just open to the possibility of there's so much more out there, especially in the age of connectivity over the internet, right? Even though they're in Ely, they're right there by the telescope. They don't have to go there, right? They connect online. So high-speed internet has just totally changed what they get to do with the telescope. And of course, as you mentioned, Richard, having our telescope right there, having them go in it, they just loved every second of visiting the telescope, of seeing it, of going in there with the red lights on and we're taking pictures of a galaxy and you just feel like an astronomer for a minute. It helped them see that this could be in their future, right? That they could imagine themselves doing this someday.
And another question to each of you. Do you feel like being involved with the GBO has impacted the university you've worked with? Has there been any changes that have occurred through the partnership?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think at the department level for our physics department, it's something that we all have access to, and it's something that we get to support in our classrooms, right? And so it's something that I guess there's, well, probably two universities now in the world, us in Southern Utah, that our astronomy classes are, a lot of them are based around labs or data or experiences that are coming from this telescope. So that's something kind of special that we can bring to the students taking our classes. I think the other thing that I really enjoyed, I mean, Kelly was talking about transferable skills and Cameron about communication, and I think that's a lot of the heart of what we're trying to get at with a lot of these students. And so some other opportunities we've been able to bring them and that have helped us. I'm hoping it's going to help us as a recruiting tool down the road is use GBO to help build programs to go into schools. So we've been going to middle schools, elementary schools in both in Reno, sometimes in Ely virtually, but I think we've even gone across the country, haven't we, Aviva? We've gone, I think, as far as Boston, if I remember right, over Zoom. And so these are things that we're able to use the GBO to help us support different lessons on. We've been focusing, in my case, on like things like gravity and black holes and just the night sky, light pollution, and that type of stuff. But we can use this to help kind of reach a huge swath of different uh, people that we normally wouldn't be able to get to. And that's also a lot of that's led by students, undergraduate and graduate students at UNR. So that they're the ones who are actually usually leading the lesson. So this is other communication experiences where, they get to be the expert teaching. And these are things that are really fully supported. And we've been able to get funding from the National Science Foundation to be able to do this stuff. And that comes from having this connection with the GBO to have something that kind of stands out as a little bit special compared to, um, other programs that might, um, you know, other sorts of outreach. This is a kind of a neat little area that we can use the GBO to help us leverage to get out to more people.
One other thing I'd like to mention on that front is SUU, probably internally, is designated as the University of the Parks. They trademarked that. And so having a research telescope in a national park just definitely heightens that. Because, a lot of people think if we go to a national park and we're going to go rock climbing, we're going to go swimming, and those are important things, right? Those are valuable experiences, but also being able to do science in a national park, that adds a whole new dimension to what we can do as a University of the Parks. So, it just builds on all the other programs about sustainability or internships within our, for the Forest Service or the Park Service. This gives us another dimension that we can use to enhance that part of SUU.
One other thing I'll add to what Rich was saying, is it definitely opens up a lot of opportunities for students to do, as I think he mentioned before, there's a senior thesis requirement. So lots of more opportunities for students to do different projects with GBO outside of the classroom as well. And we've had, beyond the senior thesis, a couple students who have then, because they got introduced to GBO through our classes, then got connected with the observatory and with Jerry Hilburn, who runs some classes on doing binary star research similar to Cameron and also exoplanet transit research. And so a couple of our students have gotten connected there and gotten to do these extra opportunities. And so that's a cool or unique opportunity for them as well. We do have a student who sent in a video kind of statement talking about her experience doing one of these classes with Jerry. So Aviva, is this a good time to share that? Okay, let me just share my screen real quick.
Hello, everyone. My name is Allison Creamer, and I recently graduated from the University of Nevada, Reno with a bachelor's in physics and a minor in astronomy. This fall, I will begin graduate school at Oregon State University to continue my pursuit of astrophysics research, a path that was largely attributable to the Great Basin Observatory, which I had the pleasure of working with this past year. Here, I worked closely with the director, Jerry Hilburn, to analyze a known double star system to determine if it is a true physical double or simply an illusion, otherwise known as an optical double. To do so, we obtained data on the separation and position angles of the stars using the telescope, and we analyzed them using astronomical imaging software. Various tests were then performed to verify the system status, including a space velocity vector analysis. This allows us to determine the three-dimensional speed and direction of each star, as opposed to the two-dimensional motion of the stars on the plane of sky. This is a process new to the course. I was among the first in the Great Basin Observatory courses to conduct such an analysis thanks to Jerry's support. This aspect of my research paper was not required, but merely an opportunity to strengthen my paper and learn more about the process of classifying these double star systems. As I showed interest, Jerry encouraged me to try it, even though this concept was new to both of us, and it proved to be a great opportunity to understand these current research papers and apply their ideas to my own project. I was given the freedom, guidance, and support I needed to understand these complex ideas, and I couldn't be more grateful. Here, I was able to learn how to approach a problem for which I did not already know the answer, and I discovered that I could, in fact, tackle problems beyond my existing knowledge. This helped me become more independent and confident in myself as a researcher. The trust and support he gave me is a testament to his character and this organization as a whole. Jerry was thorough in explaining goals and the curriculum, and yet he was always willing to challenge his students and ensure they had the foundational skills they needed to be successful in their endeavors. And I truly feel that's what they've given me. When I began working with the observatory, the software, equipment, and methodology were entirely new to me, especially as it was my first real research opportunity. Despite feeling overwhelmed at first, I eventually learned how to navigate and utilize these resources with continued practice and, of course, the guidance of the observatory. This opportunity provided an invaluable foundation that I may not have otherwise had. For instance, following the completion of my project, I was able to apply the direct experience and knowledge I gained to other academic research, including my astronomy thesis. Rather than having to learn how to identify and navigate these resources for the first time, I could actually focus on applying my existing knowledge to a new research project, which subsequently simplified my preparation. Such knowledge will no doubt be used again in my academic and professional career. This experience also helped me build practical skills in which I learned how to obtain and analyze data and form conclusions based on our current understanding of physical double and optical double criteria. Not to mention the fact that it introduced me to the scientific process, improved my scientific reasoning, and strengthened my scientific communication, particularly through a research paper. As an aspiring astrophysicist, this experience was both educational and, for lack of a better word, fun. It allowed me to work on something I am exceptionally passionate about, which in turn solidified my desire to pursue astrophysics research. But more than that, it gave me the confidence I needed to be successful, both in my research projects and my educational journey thus far. Shortly after completing my research project and submitting my paper for publication, I began graduate school applications. While graduate admissions decisions are based on many factors, I truly believe that the research experience and publication opportunity the Great Basin Observatory provided strengthened my application and helped me distinguish myself as a prospective researcher. As such, this organization helped turn an interest in astrophysics into an academic path and something I truly want to build my career around. I owe many of my recent successes to the Great Basin Observatory and am forever grateful for all this group has done for me. I hope to continue working with them in the near future, and I encourage as many people as I can to get involved with this organization and the courses thereof. They've had such a profound impact on my educational journey, and I cannot thank them enough for all the doors they have opened up for me and all they have taught me. If anyone has any further questions about my research project or my experiences with the Great Basin Observatory, please feel free to contact me via the email on the screen, and I will get back to you as quickly as I can. Thank you so much.
Well, a big thank you to Allison for sharing that with us. It's summertime and she's just about moving to her new PhD program. But yeah, it's a really nice example of how this opportunity and these professors, because really a lot of it is, she mentioned Jerry Hilburn, Dr. Plotkin, Dr. Pace, and Dr. O'Neill. Like the work that you guys do with the students, I know is really what opens the doors for them and inspires them and motivates them to have more curiosity, ask more questions, to work harder, and to learn more. And with that, actually, I'd love to ask you, Cameron, more about if the audience isn't familiar with the work that we do with pre-college students, would you just give a little bit of an overview of, I mean, really, Cameron Pace has really been the main driving force of doing research with pre-college students, and he's done it for many years. So if you want to kind of talk about how many students you've worked with, how many papers they've done, and then I know you have that slide that'd be fun to share at some point too.
Yeah, for sure. It's been an interesting process to get involved with the students. I can't remember how we got involved. I think that Russ Janae, who started doing this kind of thing way back when in San Diego, we met at a conference in San Diego. I can't remember how, again, that was 10 years ago, but nevertheless, Russ Janae, he's been doing this in San Diego since forever, got a hold of us and said, hey, you got a new telescope. You should get involved with this. You should have high schoolers do this and middle schoolers if you can, because he'd been doing it with telescopes in California and he'd seen the tangible results where people who get published as a middle schooler, as a high schooler, it really sets them up for success later when they're applying to college and then and even beyond. So that's kind of how we got started. And he definitely helped me navigate the whole process of, getting high schoolers used to the idea that, no, I don't have the answers in the back of the book. No, I don't know how this is going to turn out. No, I can't promise the weather's going to be clear. There might be weeks on end where it's cloudy, where the telescopes are broken. That's happened, right? And navigating that as a professional, you eventually get to the point where you're just like, well, this is a Tuesday and things are broken. But as a high schooler or a middle schooler, that's definitely a challenge to get used to this idea of failure. And I tell them, I finished grad school in 5 years, and I feel like 4 of those years was just failure, interspersed with a little success every now and then eventually you get better. Because I feel like that's something that our society is a bit uncomfortable with right now, is the idea that you can learn by failure. It's okay to fail. In fact, it's a thing that you can celebrate, this failure idea. And so that's kind of an uphill battle you have to fight. And we started doing it, we put out feelers, got teachers, said, hey, do you want to do this? And of course, for a lot of teachers, this seems like a big challenge. And indeed it is, because, we're not paying the teachers to do this. This is not adding to their paycheck. It's just a teacher that if we can find one that's passionate about it, that's can carve out an hour once a week to meet with us to work on this, in addition to figuring out how they're going to do this with their students after school and help shepherd them along. That was the biggest challenge, is finding the right teachers. And so we started doing that before COVID even. So it was BC, right? It was before COVID. And we were doing this like 2016, 2017, 2019. And the technology was kind of getting there, but it was a good preparation for what would happen to us during COVID, where, all the stuff was online, but the research could go forward with the high schoolers and middle schoolers because we'd already adopted that model. This is how we've been doing it the whole time. And so we've been able to plug along. And I've got the numbers here for just the last 5 years. I'd have to dig a little deeper, but since 2020, we've had 22 middle school students from White Pine Middle School in Ely, Nevada. We've had, 38 from here in Cedar City and down in St. George become published authors. And in that process, of course, they've learned a lot, but like many of our students that Richard and Kelly mentioned, we sometimes see the value of it as we're working on it, but really we see the value of it much later. And so developing that long-term view of, gosh, this really is terrible. I really don't want to write this paper. And that's kind of a bait and switch for them, because they think, oh, astronomy, it's fun. It's going to be really cool and neat. And then turns out at least half the time is spent writing a paper. And they say, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for that. And so that's another little hurdle we have to overcome, is explaining the value of that I don't care what discipline you're in. If you're going to be an engineer someday, if you're going to be a drywaller someday, it doesn't matter what it is, you're going to have to learn how to do some decent writing. You have to explain yourself, and especially as a scientist, you need to be able to communicate your results. So let me just share right here here we go. It'll take me just a hot second. But we had, so we're on the 10-year anniversary of GBO, as Aviva mentioned. And we had a similar, and Kelly said we had just earlier this summer, we had a kind of a 10-year anniversary celebration thing where the students, the high schoolers, middle schoolers, the college students, they all got together and shared their research. And we did the same thing 5 years ago. Here's some nice photos of what happened then. If you look a little carefully, you can see, hey, there's some masks in the audience here and there because of the times we were in. But it was a wonderful gathering. You can see, and there were a bunch of dignitaries. I can't remember them all because I have a poor memory, but I think, governor, senator, politicians came and toured the observatory. Some of our university partners, our scientists spoke, but also, I don't know if you can tell, it's hard to see, but underneath each of these little canopies, and of course it was broiling hot because I think we did it in July or August, and under each one of these canopies, you can see some of these posters that the students put together. And what I really loved about this get together, as well as the one we just had in May, is that these students who are quite young, the middle school students, they got to see the research that Kelly students and Richard students put on at a college level, and they can see a couple of things. Number one, wow, that's way above what I did. But number two, I just really appreciated the interactions that this develops, where the high school students and the middle schoolers get to interact with professors, get to interact with college students, and see that, hey, you know what? Yes, they're way ahead of me, they're head and shoulders ahead of me, but I can get there. Give me 5 years and some time, and I can end up where they are. And that's just been so helpful for them, is because for many of these students, especially the ones there in White Pine County, for many of them, they don't have a parent who has gone to college, right? This will be a first time experience for these students to go to college if they were to attend, and so it can seem very off-putting, scary is the word that a lot of them used. But to see that these students, the college students, are real people who can achieve this on their own, boy, that really helps them out. It's just been such a great thing for them. So just explaining this top picture, those are some of our high schoolers here from Cedar City in the dome of the telescope. And that's another thing that you get to take home. If you go to Disneyland, you take a bunch of pictures that, hey, I was here. Same thing at the telescope. You got to take a picture of, I got inside the telescope. And of course, no, we don't use it in the daylight, but every astronomer I know on the planet has a picture of them in a telescope, like in the daytime. But that's evidence that we visited the facilities. So this is a great benefit to them. So you can see that for some of these up here, they are, again, this is Success Academy, so that's a high school here in Cedar City. But for those middle schoolers to see their name on a paper, it just puts them on cloud nine. And it helps their local school district as well, because the school, how many middle schools have dedicated class for astronomy, right? That's a little bit unusual. And so the school district and the administrators there in White Pine County realize the value of this, realize that this is a special opportunity for these students. So they've created kind of a carve out in the day for these students that want to get involved, so that they have time built into their day at school to do this research, because it's just so unique, but so rewarding for the students. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you for sharing that. Well, anything else that you all want to share before we go to questions and answers? And the audience members, please put your questions in the Q&A or in the chat. But Kelly or Rich, would you like to share any other thoughts?
Not in particular, just like I said, yeah, I'm fairly new to UNR still, just finished I think 3 years here, so I've just really appreciated the opportunity to get to work with Great Basin Observatory and get to incorporate it into classes and work with students on it. So it's been a great opportunity, and glad that it's here for our students. So I appreciate the partnership.
Thank you. Okay, well then let's hop into the Q&A. I see a few questions, so go ahead and put more in there if you have any more. From Steve Moore, he said he'd like to know which binary star the young student in the video researched and what hypothesis or conclusion she came to from her research. I know she did that project with Jerry, so we may not know. Do you happen to know, Kelly?
I don't know the specifics, but she did put her email in the video, so I'm sure she would be happy to actually discuss it if you're interested. I think the conclusion for that system was that it was not a physical double, but I'm not positive on the details.
I will ask just because I think it's interesting. What did she do for her project then when she was in this seminar with you?
Yeah, so for her senior thesis, then she continued the theme of binary star observation. So we looked at um, young stellar objects, so pre-main sequence stars, stars that are just forming, that are in binary systems, and she looked at their orbits because these are systems that we actually, as much as we know about stellar evolution, there's always more to learn. And this early stage, that's like infancy of stars' lives, is something that we don't know that much about yet relative to kind of other stages of stellar evolution. And looking at their orbits from Kepler's laws, right? You can, if you measure their orbits, you can measure their masses, and their masses are a key parameter that indicate things about their evolution. And so she took a sample of stars from the literature, or of binary systems of these young stars from the literature, and analyzed their orbits in order to improve their mass estimates, as sort of a foundation for future researchers to use these updated mass estimates and learn more about stellar evolution.
Great, thank you. So I have a question from David about, does the GBO publish a newsletter? It would be interesting to keep up with the various research projects going on. Um, so I'll answer that one. We don't have a particular research paper. So if you're new to, if this is the first maybe webinar you've been on, we are going to add all the new people to our email newsletter. That comes out usually every month or every 2 months. And so we'll have a variety of topics on there, but we do often have some stuff on what's happening with the Great Basin Observatory. But it's good to know that you're interested, and it's something that we should consider. I think it would be fun to be able to get out more information on the research that's happening, especially if a student, maybe we could highlight different students and they can write about their projects. So thank you for the idea. And then there's also another question about, has the GBO participated in the Event Horizon Telescope project? I don't think so. Have we? Has anybody?
No, I wish I was a part of it. I'm not a part of that collaboration. But the Event Horizon Telescope works in basically microwaves. So it's a different type of light than what the GBO can see. But it's an amazing accomplishment that that group has done. So no plenty of people working in that, but the GBO is a different type of instrument than the GBO can contribute to.
Well, I see another question here that I wonder if Cameron Pace, you can answer this one. So Darwin is writing that he has a 19-foot inflatable planetarium, which I know SUU also has, and I know you work with that for his high school astronomy class. He's wondering if you know of, or if any of you know of, resources to acquire a fisheye lens for the projector. He's looked at ones, but they have been really expensive. Um, Currently, he's using a parabolic mirror to project on the dome.
Yeah, I can help with that, I think. So those inflatable planetariums are just fantastic. We have one at SUU that we take to all kinds of rural schools, acquired at the same year that we entered into partnership with the Great Basin Observatory, and it's been used so much, just an insane amount. So in fact, we just recently upgraded our projector just because projector technology has come a long way since 2015, it turns out. And you're right, the fisheye types can get pretty spendy. The parabolic kind definitely is kind of the more budget-friendly way to go, but perhaps not giving the best resolution. There's a little bit of distortion there. But long story short, I'll just put my email in the chat. Can I do that? I'll put my email in the chat, maybe, or Viva can. I have no idea. And then we can just, here, I'll type an answer, see if that works.
Yeah, you should be able to just put it into
Okay.
everyone instead of to hosts and panelists when you put it in the chat.
Oh, here we go. Maybe I can do that. Yeah, I think maybe I can.
Okay, I can do it. I can
You
do
can do
it.
it. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know where you are residing, but I know something that Cameron will use with his inflatable planetarium when it goes out to different schools is we have a 3.5 minute video which is made for the planetarium on GBO and also on dark skies and on light pollution and in that really short segment, it talks about why Nevada skies are important, talks a little bit about Great Basin National Park, talks about light pollution, talks about GBO, and it's free and it's on YouTube. So I hope that you'll play it for your students. And also, if you're a high school teacher, feel free to get in touch because if you'd like to work with us, if anyone in the audience would like to work with us, if you're a teacher or you know teachers who want to bring this opportunity to your students, just reach out. We would love to see if we can make that work. Okay, so another question I have here is how difficult is access to professional equipment as astronomy students progress in their studies and career? Is the Park Observatory the most simple access students will ever have?
That's a good question. Um, I think it's a nuanced answer. It's a so by simple, I think I would say probably yes, in the sense that it's very flexible. Like we pretty much, if we want a student to get on, or if you want to get on, we can get on the telescope within a day or two if we want to, as opposed to most telescopes where you have to write a proposal, you wait 6 months, 3, 4 months to find out if you're going to get the time or not, and then you maybe wait up to a year to actually get the data or to actually be able to take the observations. So in that sense, it's great. It's like you can hands-on, you can kind of, we do everything online, but you can control the telescope if you want. You can just experiment. You can do something that is likely to fail just to get that experience. So in that sense, it's probably one of the easiest accesses you'll have. But I think what's also pretty cool is the way we reduce the data, the way we analyze it, the way we interpret it, that's kind of almost the same with every other kind of optical telescope. And we're in this area now of like big data science, and there's all these like surveys all around the world that are just surveying the entire sky and just taking their data and just putting it straight in the internet. Anyone can download it. You don't have to be an astronomer, just it's out there for the public. And the way you analyze that data, it's the same exact tools that we use to analyze the GBO images. And so the same software, the same ways we load the images, the same way we measure how bright a star is or faint it is, it's the same exact tools. And so in some senses, um, I'd say it's not any simpler to reduce and analyze GBO data because you would do the same thing on this as you would on the Hubble Space Telescope or on the James Webb Space Telescope. In fact, once you get your hands on data, it's actually might be a bit harder on the GBO because there's all these like, you need to make sure the weather was good. You have to do a lot of quality checks where something like if you download data from the Hubble Space Telescope or the Vera Rubin Observatory, which is kind of our newest survey that just came online from Chile, that data has been like quality controlled for you. You come down, you have like a perfect quality image and you can just get to work on it. Where the GBO, you need some of that training to be able to understand and do some of the calibrations yourself. So, yeah, it's kind of a yes or no. It's a good question.
Okay, and another question is, someone said that in the previous presentation, we mentioned that it's possible for volunteers to train and help with the telescope operation remotely. And they asked, is that correct? And I would say yes. So Jerry Hilburn is the operations director of the GBO. He's a volunteer and does an amazing job. He is currently training people to learn how to operate the telescope. So in the follow-up email, I will put some information there as far as how you can become part of the project. But I know that he is only really wanting to invest time into people who are pretty committed. So I think it's a yes and kind of answer where it depends a little bit on what you're looking for. If anyone in the audience is really looking for like, oh, I'm really excited about this, and so I want to spend a few hours a week and commit for 6 months to a year or something like that, then absolutely. But if there is a lot of nuance that needs to be taught, and so it's not something you can simply engage with and just do a little bit here and there. You have to commit a little bit. But who has do one of you guys have students that are working right now with Jerry being trained as telescope operators? Do you want to talk about that just real briefly?
One of our students at UNR who was at the student symposium this past May and got to see the observatory directly. He's just starting his senior thesis this year and is working also doing Jerry's exoplanet class. And so I think he was interested in learning the operation. So not formally, but he's I know been kind of getting to do some training. He's interested in going into a career as a telescope operator. And so that's been a good opportunity for him to get some of that training. I think in Rich, maybe you know more about the history, but we've had students who is KJ, right? Has worked.
Yeah, is that who you're talking about, KJ?
Yeah.
Or- Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, as Kelly said, KJ is a student who's been getting training with Jerry. And it's in addition to operating, he's been helping Jerry go out to the park. So he makes trips out there. So he also learns how to, fix stuff. And I might be wrong about this, but we just got a new camera that got put onto the telescope. And I think KJ was out there to help actually install that camera. So it's also kind of that more, what we call instrumentation type of training as well that you get to do. So yeah, going back to this idea of simple access, it's a hands-on telescope that you can actually get to touch, and that is something that can be relatively unique among even college students, undergraduate students, to be able to have that level of where you can really touch a telescope and mess with instrumentation on it yourself.
Well, great. Well, for the high school teacher, I did put Cameron Pace's email in the chat. So, grab that. And thanks so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for your wonderful questions. Before we say goodbye, I do want to just give a shout out to next month in September on Tuesday, September 15th, same time as tonight is going to be our last virtual program, very different from this evening. It's going to be on author Stephen Trimble. He's going to be talking about his book. The Sagebrush Ocean, which if you're really into the Great Basin, you probably have heard about it. It's getting released for its 35th anniversary edition this fall. And the book won the Ansel Adams Award for Photography and Conservation. It's really well known as kind of the essential introduction to the ecology of the Great Basin. So I hope you can join. That will be our last program in this series celebrating the 40th anniversary of Great Basin National Park. The actual anniversary of the park is on October 27th, and we are going to be doing a special event at the park in October. So you'll be on our email list. So we will send something out about that later in probably end of September when we have some details in case you want to join. And thank you very much, Kelly, Cameron, and Rich. It's been a pleasure to explore and talk to you. And thank you to our audience for coming. And have a good night.